I just wanted to talk about the game. And there's a couple of things that I noticed watching the game that I just wanted to put on camera. And I like this journaling kind of thing that you can do on YouTube where you can make a video and state how you feel. And then I can go back to it at any point. And so I just wanted to give my Super Bowl things after watching that game because I have a lot of thoughts. And I just want to start off with Beyonce. Like Beyonce, Verizon, hello. Did everybody see that? What do we think about Beyonce? Like it came at a perfect time. We needed some of that and I appreciated that. So thank you, Beyonce. Also, can we take a minute and appreciate the fact that I really liked the Super Bowl commercials the first half. Second half Super Bowl commercials, didn't really care for them, but the first half Super Bowl commercials, in my personal opinion, I appreciated them. Now, to the game. Here's the thing. I know we all want to talk about like the 49ers not taking the ball, or the 49ers actually taking the ball in overtime. I have no idea why they took the ball in overtime. Then come to find out they didn't know the rules of overtime. And it's really unfortunate when fans of sports know the rules more than the coaches. And I don't want to knock on the coaches too hard because they have their own things they have to account for. But in coaching, the fundamental rules of something that could potentially win you a game, especially the Super Bowl, should be a priority that you make to make sure you know the rules. For example, the game went to timeout. So there was a break, or there was a little bit of time for them to come together, for somebody to radio in the rules. So the fact that they didn't know the rules and that they didn't have a game plan is a little concerning to me. I mean, they lost the game, like whatever, but we have to make sure that we know the rules of the things that we're doing, because for them to not know the rules is just weird. The other thing that's a little concerning to me now that I've seen Kyle Shanahan be in 3 different Super Bowls is I believe he has a good system. I think the problem is that now I think he needs a more dynamic quarterback for his system. And so here's the problem. I don't think Kyle Shanahan can win a Super Bowl with a game manager. He has to have somebody dynamic at quarterback, because when things aren't going well and when things aren't working, somebody needs to be able to step in and almost change what's happening, or make some play call changes or do something. I remember I think it was early in the third quarter and the fourth quarter when Brock Purdy called a timeout. He didn't see what the defense was giving him. And if he would have been a dynamic quarterback, he could have figured out a way around that. And so I think systems are great. I think systems can win you things. I think whenever you have a really good system and an average quarterback, that can't work. And so I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about Kyle Shanahan's ability to win in big games when you're going against a Patrick Mahomes, because no matter what I think about Patrick Mahomes, he's a great quarterback and he can make up the difference of what's happening. The 49ers just couldn't. And also my heart broke for Greenlaw. Like, I hated seeing him go down on a dumb, just running on the field. That was terrible. But I'm getting a little bit weary of systems being solutions. I think last night showed, and other times that Kyle Shanahan has been in the Super Bowl, quite frankly, has shown that you need a dynamic quarterback. Not having a dynamic quarterback is going to be the reason why you win or lose your Super Bowl. And that's where I think football is going, because I think it's moving more towards the positions are becoming more dynamic. Some people would say positionless. I've said positionless before. And so because of that, I think that you need more dynamics at your quarterback role. I don't think somebody just sitting back there taking the play calls in and making throws is good. I think you need a little bit more than that. And on top of that, there's a couple of calls. I think San Francisco got 2 turnovers, and they didn't capitalize. The play calling was not that great in my personal opinion. I honestly, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan lost them the Super Bowl, but I just don't think he did them any favors. And I think Brock Purdy looked very average. I think everything that he did was average. He didn't do anything great. He didn't do anything outstanding. He just was there. He was very just middle of the road. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he didn't lose them the game per se, but he just didn't do them any favors. And There was like what, a string of like 3 or 4 3-and-outs. That just isn't good. I also want to shout out the Sonic Boom. Hey, for making it to the Super Bowl. Kudos to you. I know that's right. Did I already mention Beyonce? Beyonce was phenomenal. Also, how about the Adele Take Us to Break thing where Tony Romo couldn't help himself by singing Adele? I thought that was cool. Also, Tony Romo, they have to do something about that man. He's terrible. Like, having to listen to him call plays and having to listen to him get in the quarterback's mind as if he was a good quarterback is mind-blowing. The things that he says are very strange to me. I also want to point out last night, I think I remember like 2 or 3 times where him and Nance were like bickering in the booth. I don't know. That dynamic to me seems very weird. And I think that Nance knows Tony Romo is a homer, and I bet it bothers him. I think he said one time like, "Oh yeah, Tony, I was watching you cheer," or something like that. And I'm like, that whole dynamic is weird. I don't know. Like, I have my iPad, so I need to look at my notes. But I'm not very impressed with Tono. I'm not very impressed with Tony Romo at all as a commentator. I think he came out and he was great, but now I'm just kind of like, whatever. Also, the Travis Kelce running into Andy Reid thing, didn't like it, didn't love it. I don't care how they try to cover up for it today. It was terrible. It looked bad. When I'm watching games, I always laugh and I'm like, it's so funny how nobody runs into the head coach. It's so funny how everybody just avoids the head coach. And to watch the video of this man running up on the head coach and bumping him, didn't love it. I don't think that that's great. So we can, say whatever we want today, but I think that is terrible. And Travis Kelce should never do that again. That was terrible. I just didn't like it. The other thing that I think was interesting that I just wanted to call out, and I have on my notes here. Usher, like when they actually fixed his microphone, he was great. It's interesting when you're watching performers that don't have their whole performance behind them. Their vocals sound off because we're used to hearing strong, perfect vocals. But Usher decided that he was going to be the show. And so if you noticed, when Usher wasn't singing, there wasn't any sound. When Usher was singing, he was the sound. But it's almost like at some point his microphone just wasn't quite clicking. And he made do. And him bringing out the people that he brought out, like, I got a little nostalgia. Like, I don't know, it was just great. I think Usher is a great performer. I think he's always been a great performer, so kudos to Usher. If you're somebody that isn't well versed in halftime shows, let's not act like Usher was the best halftime show you've ever that's ever been, because that's not true. Like, do your research. Like, let's stop being such a microwave society of throwing things out there so quickly, because it's a little ridiculous. Listen, he was great, but like, let's scale it back a little bit. Did y'all see Beyonce? Did you see the Beyonce commercial? I saw it. Also, Alicia Keys, fire. She looked amazing. I don't care about that first note. I can't hit any notes that she hit. So I'm not here to talk about her hitting notes. I'm just here to talk about how great she looked. So kudos to you, Alicia Keys, in the red. You looked great. The piano looked great. Loved all the pictures. Phenomenal. Great job there. Also, the other thing I just want to say, I'm looking at my notes, is it was interesting to me that I like a football game where it's almost like a boxing match where you're kind of going back and forth and you feel like you're like filling each other out. The third quarter though, oh my gosh, I thought it was a snooze fest. So glad that it picked up in the fourth quarter, but gosh, that third quarter was brutal. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. Kansas City Chiefs won. They had the better quarterback, and that's why they won. I don't think they had a better team, but they did have the better quarterback, and Andy Reid was the better coach, and so they won the game. There's an interesting thing that happens when you get to the Super Bowl. We almost forget about your flaws that you have because you've made it to the Super Bowl, and we automatically assume because you've made it to the Super Bowl, you have everything you need. But the truth is, after the game, I started thinking, like, San Francisco has everything they need in a way. They have a quarterback. I don't think they have the quarterback they need, right? Like, I don't know. I think they have some things that are great, but I think when you look at them and look at how they played, it just didn't look good. I think even Chris Jones said the Ravens were the best team that they played all year, and I think he's correct. I think the Ravens totally dropped the ball. They blew it. But that's a whole different conversation. Congratulations to Kansas City Chiefs. They won the game. I think, though, one of the things I learned last night is I am starting to question systems as far as football games go, or as far as Super Bowls go. I think systems can get you there. I don't think systems can win you games. And that's why Tom Brady is such an interesting thing in all of this, because Tom Brady won Super Bowls, obviously, with New England. Then he went to Tampa Bay and won a championship. And so he almost dispelled the system being the reason he won. He actually won based off of, being in something different. So like, it's just kind of interesting. And I'm starting to wonder if systems are really, really good for college football and not so good for the NFL, and they don't translate as well if you don't have a dynamic quarterback. So that is going to be my argument going forward. I think that you have to have a dynamic quarterback to make an impact. Now, everyone's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. I'm aware of that. But I think that you do have to have dynamic quarterback play and a smart quarterback. I think you have to have a little bit more of a game manager to beat Patrick Mahomes, unless you have a defense that's applying pressure. Because here's the other thing. They actually got turnovers from Kansas City, and they did nothing with them because their quarterback play was not very great. And so, I don't know. I just think it's weird. I mean, we can talk about Christian McCaffrey's fumble, but that didn't cost them the game, and that was in the first quarter. That was the first drive of the game. What really happened is the 49ers quarterback just wasn't that great, and Patrick Mahomes was. So anyways, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. That is my Super Bowl recap, or whatever have you.